Hi everybody, thank you so much for clicking on this Hear Center video. My name is Josephine. I'm an audiometrist at Hear Center, and today we're going to be talking about speech, language, hearing, and your child. Initially, when we offered this presentation live, we marketed it as something that would go over milestones in depth. And while we will be discussing milestones, really this is more of a general presentation that covers some of the more basic concepts in speech, language, and hearing. As we continue to do our live Zoom presentations, we will be uploading the audience-free recorded version, such as this one, to YouTube. Please subscribe so you can keep up with all of our future speech and hearing videos, which are sure to be helpful. So right now you've selected part 1 of our speech, hearing, and your child presentation, where we'll talk about some terms and concepts we think you should know about. Part 2 discusses milestones for children birth to age 5. In Part 3, we'll discuss frequently asked questions in speech, language, and hearing, and we'll close out finally with available Hear Center services in speech and hearing for your child. Before we get started, I just want to, again, reemphasize that this information is pretty general, and it's going to be geared towards those who don't really know about speech, language, and hearing development. A lot of the articles we used to put this presentation together were from ASHA. ASHA is the organization that's responsible for credentialing language and speech and hearing professionals in the US. We found that their articles were general and informative enough without being too complicated. Although this may not be the most comprehensive guide, we hope it's a good starting point for you as you learn more about speech, language, and hearing development. So Hear Center is a nonprofit speech and hearing clinic in Pasadena, California, where it's our mission to offer comprehensive speech and hearing services to those of all ages. Since 1954, we have offered speech therapy, audiology, hearing aids, and hearing protection to those in the Pasadena area, San Gabriel Valley, Los Angeles, and surrounding cities. Although we really enjoy helping our clients, something that really brings us joy too is our community outreach. We would not be able to offer you these free program presentations without the help of our funders, members, and community. So we are really grateful for all the support that's been given to us. So let's start with terms and concepts. So let's consider that Jorge is 4 years old. When he talks, it's hard to understand him, and it's quiet. His sounds don't come out very clear. Vicky is 15 and in high school. Since she was young, she's always had learning problems. Currently, she has trouble with reading and writing and needs extra time to take her tests. Lewis is 12 and had a stroke. He understands the language he hears and can speak in complete sentences, but his speech is slurred and it's hard to understand. These young ones all have something in common: communication problems, but their problems are different. Well, let's look into what makes them different. Speech is how we say sounds and words, and it is the combination of articulation, voice, and fluency. Articulation is how our mouth, teeth, lips, and tongue work together to make speech sounds. On the left, you'll have an image showing how our mouths look like when we make different speech sounds. So on the first row in the top left, the A-E-I, phonetically that sounds like ah, eh, e. And if you make those same sounds with me, ah, eh, e, notice that your mouth doesn't really change the shape too much, and it's kind of in a neutral position. Let's contrast that with the L right next door. So when you say words that start with L, for example, like or love, notice that the tip of your tongue goes to the top of your roof of your mouth, and it hits that very little small bump right before your front teeth. Like, love. This is how our mouth articulates sounds in different ways. And when it's hard to understand children, it could be explained by problems in articulation. Voice is how we use our vocal folds and breath control to make sounds. Our voices can be soft, harsh, low-pitched, high-pitched, harsh, or nasally. Fluency, another component in speech, is the rhythm. It could be the pace, if any speech sounds or words are being repeated. It could be pauses in speech. Anything that relates to the rhythm. Now, we commonly associate stuttering as disfluency. So we talked about speech. What about language? Well, language is what we refer to when we choose the words. Language is what we use to communicate our ideas. It's how we combine words to share our thoughts and communicate our needs. Language is what words mean. A star could be a celebrity, or it could be a very bright object high up in the sky. Language is how we make new words. A friend is someone you like, but if we add the ending ly and change the word to friendly, the word now completely has a different meaning. Language is how we put words together, or sentence structure. It's I got a new bike versus I got bike new. Language is knowing what to say at different times. This ties into social skills and social interactions. For example, knowing when to be polite when you meet someone new, or knowing when to be firm when someone is crossing a personal boundary. Within speech and language, a child can have a disorder. When children have language disorders, it could affect one of these 5 categories within language. And these are just the more formal terms that describe, like what I was speaking about in the previous slide, the meaning of words, how we organize them in sentences, knowing what to say at what times. We can also have an issue, we can also have disorders of speech, so how we produce sound, articulation. It could be issues with our voice or just the quality of how the voice sounds. We could also have disorders of receptive and expressive language. Receptive language refers to how our brains process and take in information that we hear through our ears. Expressive language refers to how we share thoughts, ideas, and feelings. It's possible to have disorders. It's possible to have a combination of both receptive and expressive disorders, as well as a combination of disorders in any of these 3 categories. So did you know that there are 3 parts to our ears? Our outer, middle, and inner ear all work together to help us hear. When a child has hearing loss or hearing issues, this could be affected by family health history, ear infections, illnesses such as the flu or chicken pox, traumatic brain injuries, or medications that are toxic to the ears. It's not uncommon for very young children to have hearing loss, hearing issues, or even wear hearing aids or implants at a very young age. Undiagnosed hearing issues can have negative effects on a child's life. When a child isn't able to hear correctly, this affects the development of their speech and language skills. They might not be able to correctly hear how speech sounds are supposed to sound like. Maybe they don't understand how language works or how to use language correctly. Children learn language through hearing and modeling, and hearing loss can get in the way of that, or hearing loss or hearing issues. Undiagnosed hearing loss can also affect a child's performance at school. Subjects can become harder, and there could be definite gaps between children with hearing loss and those or hearing loss or hearing issues from those in the rest of the class. If they can't really hear what's being taught, they're missing out on valuable information to complete assignments correctly. Maybe it even manifests as distraction or kind of being head in the clouds in classroom. I've definitely heard teachers describe children who later had hearing loss to be, they're smart, they just seem off in another world sometimes. Lastly, children may feel left out because they can't connect with others easily. when they have hearing loss, it's difficult for them to truly hear and communicate with others, which can affect their friendships and relationships. And over time, this feeling of disconnect can lead to feelings of low self-esteem and loneliness. So thank you for watching part 1. Here's some contact info. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or our staff at Hear Center. Continue on to part 2 and part 3 to complete the presentation. And lastly, subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet. We'll be uploading more presentation videos in the future. On to part 2, and have a great day.